Okay, it's 12:35, so I think we can probably go ahead and get started. If anyone trickles in, we can just kind of fill them in along the way. But welcome to the first Council of Treasurers meeting this fall. And today, I don't know if you guys joined based on messages that you've seen, but we're gonna really talk about fundraising and specifically fundraising with like freedom by design as well. We hoped that doing this meeting about fundraising, you can maybe help prepare your chapter. I don't know if you guys are the treasurers, but you can help prepare your chapter to go to the quad conferences that are coming up this year. So I'm here, I'm on the finance committee and I'm kind of taking charge of the whole Council of Treasurers meetings. My name is Lauren. I go to the University of Kansas, and then we have Ethan with us on the call, and he is the board liaison. I don't know if he wants to introduce himself.
Yeah, I can. Hello, everyone. My name is Ethan Sandburg. I am the Midwest Quad Director as well as the liaison for the Finance Committee. And so I am here to help Lauren give this amazing presentation. And so I hope you all enjoy it.
So first, we just kind of wanted to introduce the Finance Committee, which Ethan and I kind of just introduced ourselves, but our chair is Nicole Bass. She's actually on a call with another one of the collateral, the new name for the collateral. She's on a call with ACSA right now, and she'll join about halfway through. Like we said, the board liaison is Ethan, our staff liaison is Larry, and then the committee members are Shannon, myself, Jade, Saad, Adan, Kasem, Yvonne, and Kai. I don't think any of them are here with us, but you can see their names and their schools listed. So maybe if you don't ever want to reach out to someone, like if you want to reach out to someone in your quad rather than like Ethan or I, you can find them in Slack and everything and reach out to them if you have any questions. So yeah, some of our charges, just to let you guys know about what Finance Committee is. The applications to be on the committee have opened back up. So if Finance Committee kind of interests you, this is kind of what we're working on this year. We're working with the executive director to review a biennial audit of the organization. We're going to research community colleges and what AIAS looks like that at those colleges, and then also reassess the price of dues for those chapters, since they do tend to have less members and might not be as financially stable as other established chapters. We're going to encourage and facilitate networking and collaboration between the chapter treasurers, and that's kind of what this Council of Treasurers is for. We'll communicate with the program staff members to ensure AIAS partnership and fundraising efforts are aligned with our values, both as an organization and the student values. We will be assisting the Freedom by Design in developing resources and guides to raising and managing funds specifically for Freedom by Design directors. And then we'll continue to collaborate with I don't know what committee that is, to assess dues structure.
Council of Global Representatives.
Thank you. I was like, I've definitely seen that before, but we're just basically gonna look at the dues for international chapters. I don't know if Ethan, you have anything to add to that, but that's basically sums up what we're doing.
Nope, that all is really cool. And like Lauren said, this all falls under charge number 3. And that's kind of been Lauren and I's focus for the last several months. So
there we go. Okay. So just a rundown of what we're going to kind of talk about today. We'll have an icebreaker right after this slide. We're going to kind of talk about what does it look like to be a treasurer, since this is our first Council of Treasurers meeting this year. Quick reminders on kind of general rules of thumb. We're going to talk about tax and nonprofit documents. There's a lot of kind of rules that go along with that. We're going to walk through how you brainstorm a fundraiser, how you ask to be a donor, and kind of what the responsibility of those donors would be. And then we're going to talk about freedom by design financing, just like the basics. And then we're going to point you to some of the treasure resources we have, and then we'll open it up for questions at the end. All right, so our icebreaker today, and we can all go around and kind of talk about, kind of popcorn it. So it's, what could you give a 30-minute presentation on with no preparation? So if you were just told to like go in front of everyone and you had to talk for 30 minutes about like one topic, what would that be? I don't know, I can go first. So I have this theory that we all see colors differently. And I think it's like somewhat true, like someone else's red could be what I see is yellow. It's really hard to explain, and this is why I think it could take 30 minutes. But I have a feeling that like we might see like perceive colors differently, and that's what I would give my 30-minute presentation on. So yeah, I will popcorn to Ethan.
Yeah, so this is a little bit lower brow, I guess, but mine would probably be the design process for Pokemon or different like video game characters. I have a friend who's in a visual arts major, and her and I will talk for hours on character design and like what makes a good character and what makes a bad character. And then we both just play Pokemon a lot, so that tends to be our middle ground. But yeah, I will popcorn. Let's go with Morgan.
Hi. I don't know what I could do. Probably, I really like costuming and costume design, so probably like I've been obsessed with Anastasia lately. I don't know if anyone has seen the movie Anastasia, or because none of my friends know what it is, but probably that, and just transitioning, because it's also a Broadway show, and doing that and passing it from the actual historical documentation of the costumes to like animated movie in the 90s to I think it was like 2019 Broadway, and just stuff like that. Oh, I'll popcorn Shannon.
I think you said Shannon. Hi. Yeah, I was responding to both of you. I do know about the multiple color theory and big Anastasia fan here. Hi, I'm Shannon DeFranza. I'm the past vice president of the AIAS. And so I sit on the finance committee. I don't know if this is what you asked for. I'm just going to say it anyway. I sit on the finance committee kind of as an observer for the first semester of this year and as a guidance person and wisdom. I could give a 30-minute presentation with no preparation, probably on the AIS one, obviously, and then two, just on really random issues about international relations. Like that's what I did before architecture. So I know very like just random things about natural disaster preparedness mapping for India. Is that going to serve me in life? I don't know. Couldn't tell you yet, but I do know a stupid amount about it. So here we are. All right, I will popcorn to, oh, Michelle, hi. How you doing?
I'm doing great. So I'm currently at work right now. So the only thing that I can think of is a 30-minute presentation on what I do, which is more about like trauma-informed design and like homelessness. Like a huge thing for what I know a lot about. But another thing is kind of like the composition of intro music songs. So like intros for anime or for like TV shows, and how it makes you feel and how it correlates, and how sometimes it doesn't correlate to what the show is about. So kind of like how that works and how they pull you in. And I'll go ahead and popcorn Rebecca.
Hi.
I think if I were to give a 30-minute presentation, it would probably be on urban stormwater management. That is just kind of like my favorite topic. Like all my studio projects are on it pretty much, and I never shut up about it. So I could definitely spontaneously talk about it. Oh, I'm also at Montana State University, by the way. I can't remember if we were saying that or not, but yeah, that's what I like to talk about. And I will popcorn to Sarab.
Hello, I'm from Illinois Tech. My name is Rob. I could probably do a 30-minute presentation or just like casually talk about movies and kind of how they use like set design and stuff like that. You know, I think like I probably spent too much time on YouTube watching those essays about movies and how they do all these editing. So yeah, I could probably rant about that. So, sorry, I missed something. I guess I joined a little late. Ethan, have you gone yet?
I have, but maybe we can popcorn it over to Binta. Did I say your name right?
Can you say that
Yeah.
again? Sorry, there's
Awesome.
Well, if I couldn't find anything to talk about, I guess I'll just talk about myself, and yeah, that would be my whole presentation.
I mean, that's smart.
Sounds a little narcissistic, but I'm not. I guess I'm a popcorn to Anna.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am from Georgia Tech, and I could probably give a 30-minute, maybe like a 2-hour presentation actually, on which vegan substitutes are good and which ones are absolutely disgusting and you should absolutely avoid. I will popcorn to Elizabeth.
Oh, hi. So I'm Elizabeth. I'm actually the treasurer of Central Piedmont Community College. We're in Charlotte, North Carolina. Again, nobody asked, but hi. So I actually did my undergrad. I'm back getting my associates in architecture right now, but I actually did my undergrad at UNC Chapel Hill in geology. So something I could talk about for 30 minutes is definitely plate tectonics or volcanoes or seismology or like anything related to rocks or the earth. I love it. So yeah, that's me. Nice to meet y'all. I don't know who hasn't gone. Who hasn't gone yet? Everybody's gone, I feel like.
I think Pao might be the
Pao.
last one.
Yeah.
Okay, Hal, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Paulina. I'm the Latin, I don't know, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, sorry, I'm at like construction site. I'm the Latin
Okay.
America Regional Director, and something I could probably talk about would be food in general, Italy as well, and volleyball. And I'm happy to be here.
Cool. Thank you. I think that's everyone. So thank you guys for participating. I really like this icebreaker actually. Like I feel like it gives you such a like in-depth kind of look at what people are thinking or like what they know a lot about. So with that, I'll just go ahead and get started. So kind of the first thing that we wanted to talk about was just kind of the fiduciary responsibility of treasurers. Like I said, I'm not sure if everyone here is a treasurer, but just a reminder that the responsibility requires board members to stay objective, unselfish, responsible, honest, trustworthy, and efficient. They always have to act for the good of the organization rather than benefiting themselves. A need to exercise reasonable care in decision making and not placing the organization under unnecessary risk. So just kind of basic stuff, but just wanted to make a reminder on that. And then just a reminder about what Council of Treasurers is. It's a way to encourage and facilitate the networking between chapter treasurers and we're introducing it kind of this semester. And then we'll just look up, be on the lookout for more opportunities for next semester as we discuss more topics. Yeah, I think this might be the only one, since it's getting close to finals for everyone. It might be the only one this semester, but we're looking to do 2 or 3 more next semester. Another reminder is working with your school. So every school is different. We have high school chapters, community college, and university chapters. So just the relationship that you'll have as an organization with your school is going to be different. And this can feed into, this might seem like, oh, that might be more of like a president thing, but it's also important for treasurers as well, because certain schools have different like requirements and stuff, that hoops that you have to go through based on like bank accounts and stuff like that. So just a reminder to always maintain good relationships, keep your own records, especially if you are working with the school. You want to make sure that all of your records align with theirs and there won't be any discrepancy. And if you are keeping your records, then you can very easily go back and look and figure out if you were to have an issue, what that was. And then along similar lines, specifically for Freedom by Design though, some schools will require Freedom by Design to be their own club in order to receive any funding for the school. And just a reminder, that doesn't mean that Freedom by Design is separate at all. They just will have to be categorized as a different club. So, I don't know, Ethan, if you have anything to add to that.
No, that all sounded really good. Yeah, I will just say again, it doesn't really matter whether you're a high school, community college, or university. Making sure that you keep a good relationship as a treasurer is going to make sure that the school is more willing to help you financially and help out your chapter financially. So
that's a good point. And just for banking setup, this is kind of things what not to do. Don't open your chapter's own nonprofit with the state. We already have that. We have all of the information in like, we have a national nonprofit and we have that information to give to you if you need it. Don't file for an LLC status. And when in doubt, please ask. We have almost every resource that you may need. So you just have to ask. You shouldn't have to go through all of these hoops. If you're doing like a lot of steps and it's painful, then you're probably doing something wrong and should probably talk to your quad director or really anyone that could help. So, Ethan, do you have anything to add? Cool. So tax info. So we are a 501c3 organization. That second bullet point is, I believe, our tax number. And we don't have to file taxes. Nationals does that. So as an individual, you just have to know that we're a 501c3, we're tax exempt. We can get you the form if you really need it, but you can use this a lot when you're fundraising and saying that you're a nonprofit organization. And a lot of other companies and organizations will be able to not tax you if you're buying stuff, say from like a store or something, if you're getting food for an event, but also those organizations, if they're donating enough money, they can use that, I believe, as a write-off. And then some of the forms, most of these forms are on the website, but they usually are password protected. So if you need that password, just reach out to the national office or really anyone on the board, and we can get you in contact with someone that can give you that password. So Ethan, anything? Cool. So like I was just talking about, your golden ticket as a treasurer is this tax exemption letter. So if you don't have that already, definitely reach out to us, talk to us after the meeting, and we can get that to you. That excuses you from federal taxes, but it does not apply to state taxes. But even so, not having to pay those taxes is going to be significantly help you in saving every penny and making sure that your chapter finances are all in order. That's what I just said. Okay. It also goes for if you're buying supplies for Freedom by Design projects. So if you're going to Home Depot, Menards, any of those stores and buying wood, you can tell the members at Home Depot that you're tax exempt, and they're able to remove that from your cost. So yeah, Ethan, anything?
I will also say, even if you are buying something small, still mention to the individual that you're buying it from, so you are a nonprofit, because while you do get the federal tax exempt, that might only be 50 cents, they might see the letter and just donate it to you. Because they're like, well, like it'd be easier for us to just take down your tax exemption letter and just donate this product to you, rather than going through all of the steps of checking out a $40 item and just removing federal tax. So definitely feel free to mention it as you are doing fundraising efforts.
Thanks. All right, so moving on to the W-9. This is just another paperwork, and you're going to use this when you're receiving a service. So the service provider is then responsible for filing the taxes on the payment. You just kind of have to show it to them. They'll probably make a photocopy of it, but make sure you get it back. And then only give it to people when they ask. Don't like proactively try and give it to them. Just you have it if they ask for it, but don't show it if you don't need to. And examples of this would be if you're using a consultant for a Freedom by Design project, they might want to see that W-9. Or if you're doing a catering service, maybe for a Beaux Arts ball, or even if you're doing it for like a general body meeting or something like that. So yeah, Ethan, anything? Cool. All right, so now we're kind of going to hop into fundraising and kind of what that looks like, how to get those funds going. So there are several different ways that you can get the funding. Sometimes colleges and universities will give you a little bit of funding for being one of the organizations of the university. It might not be very much, but it's still something. Sorry if you hear clanking in the background. I'm at our design build warehouse, and I think there's a delivery coming. But you can also get funds from local AIA chapters and even local firms. A lot of them are always super willing to donate to students, especially because they were once in our position, and a lot of them were probably in AIAS as well. So they feel that commitment to pay it forward or pay it back to the organizations. You can get funds by running a fundraiser. Crazy. We'll talk about that more in the next slides, kind of what those fundraisers can look like. You can also get some funds from admission to AIAS events. You can also get grants from NCARB. These are usually just for Freedom by Design, and we'll talk about that more in future slides. And then we can also get company-sponsored scholarships. So, Ethan, anything? Cool. Okay. So this is kind of like a big list of all of the different fundraisers you can do. I don't need to read all of these, but I know some of the ones that have been successful. I know at the University of Kansas, we do a Beaux Arts ball, and we usually make a little bit of money doing that. But at KU, most of our money comes from selling calendars. So we have these calendars that's that are they're long strips because they used to hang off the side of a drafting table. And we sell them to a lot of alumni and even local firms. And it's kind of like a big thing with our school and just kind of the history behind it. We're on the 51st year of it now. And we usually make about $2,500 to $3,000, I think, from that. And that usually will hold us over for the whole year. So we get most of our funding from that. You can also do percentage nights. I know that we've done that in the past. I think there's a website called Group Raise Me, I think, and you can sign up to host fundraisers at local restaurants, and you'll get like 15 to 20, sometimes 30% of the sales that you make in that night. I don't know, Ethan, do you know any other fundraising that were really successful?
Yeah, a big one is t-shirt contests. Chapters do that all the time, and it is often a really good way to bring in some money. But like getting site tours if you're doing, or firm tours, you know, putting a small fee to that. Students are a lot of times willing to pay for that, and it's more than worth it. Like some of the resources we do or we have with that. Mugs are also a really popular one. I know it's kind of a common trope that architecture students drink a lot of coffee, but it's a true trope in many aspects. So having a mug is also really useful. I'll also recommend to all of our treasurers out there, it might be really smart to just take a quick screen grab of these ideas. And as your board members are bringing up activities that they want to do, you can be like, you can suggest to them, well, we need to fund this somehow. Do any of these activities look like something that our chapter would be interested in? This is a great starting ground. However, this is not a comprehensive list of every single fundraising option that's out there. So absolutely feel free to come up with new ideas, but this is just a really good starting ground of what we've heard from chapters as being relatively successful.
And Ethan made a good point that you should really evaluate before you do the fundraiser. And we might be talking about this in future slides, but really think about, will this fundraiser work for our chapter? And that's part of the important thing about being on the board. You have to kind of know your chapter and know what would work and what won't work. Because if it's not going to work, then it's not really a good use of your time. So yeah, I'll give you guys like another second to grab a picture of these efforts. And if you have any questions about kind of what any of these would be or what you would need in order to run those fundraisers, you can definitely reach out. I think most of us, at least on finance committee, have done all of these. So we can definitely direct you in the right direction. That's the same words. Okay. So kind of the strategy that we were talking about, and like I was saying, do know your audience, know the fundraisers that people are willing to participate in and are not. So you guys know your chapter the best, so you guys would be the best to kind of decide that. You also have to understand the profit and loss balance. So you want to make sure that the cost of the materials and all of the energy for the event doesn't outweigh the income. So you kind of basically seeing if you think that if the fundraiser would be successful. And then marketing, make sure that you market the fundraiser to the right people, and make sure you market it plenty ahead of time, especially if it is like a one-time event thing. You want to make sure that that word gets out and people have time to plan for it. And lastly, make sure that you have fun. Make sure that it's an event that you and your board want to be doing. Otherwise, it'll just be kind of dreadful. So yeah, Ethan, anything? Cool. Okay. Is this, you want to talk about this, Ethan?
I will talk about it. So this kind of goes back to the have fun aspect of fundraising. If a fundraising is just putting a lot of stress on a chapter, it's starting to really bog down, do not feel afraid to kind of back out of it, because the last thing we want is a train wreck to happen at your chapter that is caused by a fundraiser you're trying to force your chapter to do. If it does seem like it's going in that direction, there are ways you can kind of remove yourself from that fundraiser, or remove yourself from that promise of the fundraiser, and let the train wreck happen at another station. Don't let it stop you. Don't let it stop the momentum of your chapter. And just kind of, again, make sure you have fun with it. Make sure it's meaningful to your chapter, and it isn't, you're not just doing it because you feel like you have to do it.
All right. So the next few slides are going to be more about donors. So kind of having someone that will donate a large chunk of money to you guys. So the first thing that you want to know when you're pitching the idea of a donor, of having someone as a donor, is understanding what your chapter needs. So if you need funding to go to a conference, that's going to be different than funding for a Freedom by Design project. So basically you want to have a clear understanding of what you want. You can also use this as a networking opportunity to kind of get to know local potential donors and see what see if they would be open to donating. And then you just want to be clear in your ask. So make it very clear what you want to use it for, stuff like that. Ethan, do you have anything? You might. Okay, cool. So again, this is just donor strategies. It's pretty similar to fundraising, but your donations don't have to just be money. They can be time, food, about a whole bunch of different things. So I know at in the KU chapter, we would reach out to the local grocery store a lot to see if they could donate food for our general body meetings, or even gift cards to get snacks and other stuff that they had, stuff like that. You have to make sure that who you're asking to be a donor makes sense. So we reached out to a grocery store to get food stuff. I'm not going to reach out to, like, I don't know, some other store to get something that, like, you have to make sure that you're reaching out to the right people for the right things. You want to make sure that there's continuity. So making sure that if you do have a connection, like we do have this connection with this grocery store, so I passed that along after I was out of that position. You would just want to make it clear to the future leaders that you have a good connection already, and that they would be likely to continue donating. And then another important thing is to think 3 to 4 years down the line. So if you find yourself with like a decent amount of money, make sure you don't like spend it all in 1 year. Try and save that. And then just remember it's a give and take. Ethan, do you have anything?
The only thing I would add is kind of with that, I think 3 to 4 years down the line, a lot of chapters, like with great reasoning, didn't expect COVID to happen. And so the chapters that were kind of raising money that year only to spend it all that year really began to struggle, as they weren't able to do that many fundraisers, and firms weren't donating as much money. So always make sure you try and end the year with just a little bit of money in reserve, so that if something unexpected happens next year that literally no one could have predicted, then you're still able to do some of the things that you promised to your students previously.
Thanks. So dues and dues again of donor relations. So if you do find yourself with a donor, make sure that you regularly communicate them. Don't kind of leave them hanging. Make sure you're kind of prompt with your responses, and just make sure that you keep that relation strong. Make sure to send thank you notes. That's really important in keeping your donors. They've definitely appreciate it. I know we received donated pumpkins one time. We were doing a pumpkin carving contest. So when we were done, I sent them a thank you note and sent them pictures of the pumpkin, the carved pumpkins. They just really like to see how their donation is helping your chapter. And then important, this is more when you're proposing, explain why you need the money and explain what has been done or what will be done with that money. This kind of goes back to showing them what you did with it. People love to see that, they'll eat that stuff up. And then another important thing is kind of asking for more than you actually want. Sometimes they'll come back and say, hey, we can't donate this much, but you can ask for $50 and they can only donate 30. But if you really only needed 30 in the first place, then that's perfect. So just make sure that you're asking for more. And like I said earlier, you can ask for things that aren't cash. Sometimes it's almost easier that way. They'll donate the whole thing, and then it's just kind of one less step. And then make sure you have a realistic goal. Ethan, do you have anything to add? All right. Do you want to talk about restricted and unrestricted funds?
Yeah, I am. So restricted and unrestricted funds are really only important when you're talking to donors. Kind of as Lauren mentioned earlier, when you are in the process of communicating with a potential donor, you oftentimes want to tell them what the money is going to be going for. Now, if something comes up and you are wanting to reallocate that donation, it's really important that you either mention that to the donor, or you find another source of revenue or another source of donation for that new idea. Because when you promise a donor that you're going to use funding for a certain event, it becomes restricted to funding that event specifically. Additionally, this is a lot more kind of nitpicky with Freedom by Design, because as you get into NCARB grants, those have to be used for Freedom by Design projects. You can't just pocket that money and use it for a general body meeting or a board stall. Those really need to be going towards where you as a chapter and as a treasurer have promised that those funds are going to be going.
Thanks. Freedom by Design. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Michelle if you want to talk about Freedom by Design. Michelle is the chair of the Freedom by Design Committee. So thanks for being here.
Awesome. Thanks for inviting me. So as Lauren had mentioned, I'm the chair of the Freedom by Design Advisory Committee for this year. I've been highly involved in Freedom by Design in the last 4 years or 5 years that I've been involved in AIAS. So Freedom by Design is a program of the AIAS. It's not a separate entity. We work hand in hand, almost connected, well, actually connected. And so it's kind of ideal to have one account for all chapter finances, but they are specific to each school. I know that my school was able to get funding from our university, and because of that, both our AIAS organization and our Freedom by Design organization had separate entities, both financially and within the university, because that's just how my university worked. And we were able to completely have all of our finances individually, and we didn't have to jump through any hoops to get that finances. But there are universities that have to go through the university to get money, through their organization to get money. But just keep in mind that it's not a one size fit all for each university or school. So essentially, when we're talking about fundraising, one of the biggest ones, of course, is the NCARB grant provided by NCARB to Freedom by Design projects and Freedom by Design per chapter. So essentially, we have all of those applications and whatnot on the FBD portion of the website. And also Benjamin Moore. Benjamin Moore has been one of our biggest sponsors. They usually sponsor paint, of course. And there is also an application and a process for getting the paint. So if your Freedom by Design is looking for sponsorships with Benjamin Moore, there is some lead time in between when you request the paint and when you get it. But they are definitely one of our biggest contributors. And if you give them the amount of surface area that you're wanting to paint, they'll send that paint to a local Benjamin Moore near you, and you're able to pick that up. So yes. Is there anything?
No, I think that's good.
And then I'm free to answer any questions after as well. So essentially, if your chapter has a Freedom by Design, please reach out to Freedom, the FBDAC, for any help. You can on Instagram, on email, I believe it's freedom@aias.org. And hopefully soon we're going to be starting out getting some pod calls for each one of your regions to ask any questions or to give updates on your project. And hopefully pretty soon, we will also have our own fireside chat to kind of talk about big issues and other issues that chapters are having to talk about within a huge space. That way you guys can start learning from one another and learning from other chapters as well.
So thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Very helpful. Yeah. Okay. We just have a little bit more and then we'll open it up for questions. So we're just going to talk about the resources that are available to you. So last year, the finance committee made this lovely treasure. So you're the treasurer guide, or maybe it was 2 years ago now. But basically it's this whole PDF document and it's super helpful in helping in answering questions on transitioning, what your roles and responsibilities are, budgeting, that best practices, and then even some event prep. So if you need access to this PDF, it's in the resources tab, which is on the AIAS webpage under resources. And then if you click the finance button, it has all of the resources that you could want listed below that. And I think the first one to pop up should be the So You're the Treasurer guide. And then you can download that, open it up, and see all of these wonderful tabs. A lot of them, it's mostly just questions, like common questions that you might have about these different topics. And then it answers them and points you in the right direction if you need any additional help. So, yeah. I believe that is all we have. So just a reminder that if you have any questions or you're ever in doubt, just ask. You can contact the Vice President, Nicole Bash. She actually just hopped on the call, Executive Director, or the Finance Committee in general, or even reach out to your quad directors. So yeah, that's all I have. I don't know if Ethan, you want to add anything, but.
No, that is it. Again, please always feel welcome to reach out to us. We are more than happy to help, and we love helping in any way we can. But yeah, if Lauren's ready, we can go ahead and open it up to questions or comments that any of the chapter presidents might have, or chapter treasurers or presidents. Whoever's on the call.
Stop sharing so I can see everyone.
I'll just chime in really quickly and say, hey everyone, sorry for the lateness. I got double booked today. But so great to have you all, and thanks Lauren and Ethan for giving out the amazing presentation. FinCom has been working hard as always. And we're just to echo, we're always here. So maybe one of the questions I have for y'all is like, how's the semester going so far with, working with your schools to get money for either events or conferences? And I'm very happy to pick people if no one speaks up.
I can speak on far as Illinois Tech. Budgeting has been fairly good, especially coming after COVID. Our school was very ready to give us a lot of activity on campus. However, summer of fundraising hasn't been nearly as successful because it just hasn't happened in like 2 years. So we're still getting our feet wet with that. Question I had was actually, when you're processing, so one of our ideas was a Coffee Monday event. We were selling coffee because architecture students. So when you're processing those transactions, does it have to go through like a business account, whether you're doing like Venmo or like PayPal, or can I just go through the treasurer and then into cash?
Yeah, I can speak a little bit to this. There isn't any like set, like you have to do it this way from the national office perspective. Definitely, I would recommend doing whatever works best for your chapter. If that ends up being everyone just Venmos the treasurer and the treasurer puts the money into the bank account, that's totally fine. I would definitely recommend keeping it either Venmoing to the treasurer or the president, as opposed to maybe another general e-board member. Or if it's a Freedom by Design specific fundraiser, absolutely bring in the Freedom by Design director as an option as well. But yeah, I would try and restrict it to kind of the leading entities and don't necessarily have a bunch of people kind of trying to Venmo a bunch of different members of your board at one time. So
Kind of going off of that, it's more like the strategy. So I was the vice president last year, and I was basically in charge of doing our BOA Arts Ball. So we were selling tickets as well. We found that either cash or Venmo is probably the best bet if you're looking for like which avenues are the best. I just had everyone Venmo me, and then at the end I wrote a check. But the Venmo, even compared to the cash, was like way more. It's just easier for people, I think, now to do Venmo. So definitely have that option if you can. Do other people have, or do you have, sorry,
No, I was just gonna say thank you. Like this presentation was actually really fruitful.
I'm glad. Thanks for coming. Does anyone else have any questions or answers to Nicole's question?
Can easily call out Michelle just because you have your video on.
I don't necessarily, I'm currently an alumni member, so I'm not fully involved with our local UNLV chapter. But I do have a bit of advice as well with just like transactional things. Our university also used Square. We ran a student store as well. So we used our own Square and it was connected to our bank account with the university. And so if you're selling things in high quantity or you're selling multiple pieces of merchandise, I would say that that is a huge resource for our chapter, and where we kind of it was really easy because if it was connected to the treasurer who had access to the specific account for the chapter or the vice president or the president, we usually kept it to those three people. They would just plug in the Square, use the app, and it would go immediately to a bank account. And we wouldn't have to Venmo or take out cash or any kind of money moving around.
Michelle, do you want to popcorn somebody?
All right. Let's see. I'll go ahead and popcorn. Let's do Elizabeth.
Oh, I can't get my video to work for some reason, but I knew you were gonna pick me. I don't know how, I knew it. So our chapter right now, like we're a community college, so it's a 2-year school, obviously. So COVID COVID dissolved our chapter. So we are like in first semester of rebuild, and I'm the new treasurer. I'm first year in this program, and we're just kind of lost right now, like honestly, because we don't really have events planned because we don't know like what they used to do in the past, because we have no connection with anybody that was once in AIAS. So it's really like, that's why I joined this meeting, because I'm like, any resources I can get is really like helpful. We get like, I'm pretty sure we have like 2,500 in our account right now, which is like cool because we have nothing to spend it on at this point. But it's really just kind of complicated working it out with the school and stuff right now. They won't let, like, even as the treasurer, I don't get access to our account. Like they will not let any students have access to any student club accounts. So a lot of it is just kind of like frustration and fumbling along. We have done one fundraiser. So our school does like warm up Wednesdays. So like every Wednesday they'll have like a little like snack bar, like something in the lobby. So we did one of those a couple weeks ago, and we sold hot chocolate for $2 a cup, and we made like $80 or something. So we actually did pretty well. And we're gonna do a couple more of those. I think we're gonna do those every other Wednesday for the rest of the semester. So I mean, we're starting very, very small right now, but hopefully we'll get, on track and stuff, and I plan to stay on the board next year. So, yeah, hopefully we'll get going, but yeah, literally any advice that y'all can give for new clubs, new treasurers, fundraising, anything, like this has already been really helpful, but I'm open to any more advice.
I can kind of relate to what you just to what Elizabeth just said. We're not new, but it kind of feels like we are, because the previous chapter, the previous board didn't really do much of their job. So we're kind of starting from scratch, and we don't have any connection with any of them really. So I'm the treasurer of our chapter at the University of Memphis. But I'm kind of lost too. I don't really know what to do. We just started a fundraiser, which is a merge for the department. Right now, our only clients are going to be people in the department, but we plan on expanding it to hopefully the whole university and even further. Yeah, so I guess my question would be, how would y'all advise me to maybe budget or find the right price range for the merch? We plan on selling t-shirts, hoodies, and sweatshirts and caps.
I'll just briefly respond, and then Ethan, you could chime in because I see you. Is that, you know, a lot of these things with fundraising is like, as much as we always appreciate and is important to have like AIS traditions and things like that. Like I know, so I graduated from CCNY, and we have our things, but also like this is an opportunity to be like, what are you interested in doing? What events do you want to do, and things like that. And so and also going through Instagram and seeing other AIS chapters do things, I'm like, oh, I'd never realized an AIS can do that. So for me, as vice president now, I look at everyone's chapters and I didn't realize people were doing ice cream parties, and I wish I could do that. But go ahead, Ethan.
Nicole, you literally stole exactly what I was going to say. We had, when COVID first happened, I was chapter president of my of my chapter, and we kind of were in that very lull of our chapter was basically having to reinvent themselves. And that my biggest advice is don't feel like you have to do what the previous people were doing to be successful. You know more about the students that are currently going to your school than they do, and you know more what they're interested in. A great place to start, which it sounds like both of you were able to get fundraisers off the ground, which is a great area to start, but also just making sure that you're kind of keeping in touch with your student body. Like, what are they interested in? Don't host events that they're not really going to want to do. And so, yeah, that would be kind of my general advice as far as that goes. Is do what you feel confident in, and go in the direction. As far as like price ranges for the like sweaters and shirts and things like that, I would definitely look at other chapters' Instagrams. A lot of times they'll put price ranges on their posts for their fundraisers, but also look at your university. You know, see how much like talk to a t-shirt company, see how much it's going to cost to make, and then see how much your university is selling t-shirts for. Obviously, I would recommend trying to undercut your university and sell them cheaper than what they're selling them at, because that makes it more appealing. But also, you know, again, it comes back to that. Make sure to balance the profit losses for a fundraiser. So if a t-shirt costs $15 to make and you're selling it at $14, you're losing $1 for every shirt. So you don't want to do that. But also, you know, gauge how much money you feel like your chapter really needs right now. If it needs a lot of money and you're really trying to build it up quickly, you might have a little bit more of an expensive t-shirt. But if you're just trying to slowly generate revenue, which is really healthy, you might set it at a lower margin where you're only making like $1 to $2 per t-shirt sold. And so, yeah, it's completely up to kind of how you guys envision the money being used in the future based off of how much fundraising you really need. So, does that answer your question? Sorry.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. And also thank you, Nicole, for sending all of the resources in the chat.
Yeah,
Also,
absolutely.
Kind of going off of that, like we talked about, see if you're reaching out to local t-shirt companies, see if they can give you like a % off, show that we're like a nonprofit, and like oftentimes they might be able to like do it for 15-20% less, and that might not seem like too much, but like that's a few extra dollars that you can make in profit. So yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions or want to share how your chapter is doing?
I could easily call on Morgan or Rebecca, so.
I can share a little bit. I'm from Montana State, and we usually have a really big fundraiser that happens when our advisory council comes to town, but this is the 3rd year in a row that it hasn't happened. This time due to like leadership changes in the School of Architecture. Our director didn't feel like ready to put it on, and our event kind of only works because all of the advisory council people come to Montana State and are willing to like bid on the art auction that we host. And so it's been kind of interesting because we had budgeted to have that. It's a really large source of income for us. So we've had to kind of like readjust our budget to be a little more just conservative in our spending. But we have been lucky to have like a really good relationship with our AIA chapter. We're the only AIAS chapter associated with AIA Montana, so we don't have to like compete for funding, which is helpful. But yeah, we definitely had to make some. We actually started planning the event, and when I mentioned it to our director, he was like, "Oh no, that's not happening this year." And I was like, "Oh, good to know." But yeah, that's kind of what we've been facing at our chapter.
And say we are actually a really, really new chapter in terms of AIS, I believe. I think we started, excuse me, we started trying to get members and everything, I believe 2019-2020 school year, so COVID ground zero, because that's the only notes that we have from like previous exec boards, and like everyone, we didn't really do anything over COVID, but we are just trying to mostly get our feet on the ground and running. We have some funding from school, but we have a little bit of issue getting it because we are classified as like a trial club, and so we can request money, but we just don't get the automatic. Like I think we get like $250. They're supposed to get a semester from the school, but we didn't get it this last one, which was no fault to ourselves. It was mostly just error because there's a bunch of clubs that got stuck in the cycle of your trial club. You don't get immediate funding, you have to request it. And so we're working on that. We are just finishing up a t-shirt fundraiser. Again, we just did like a Venmo thing like everyone did in Google Forms. I think we were able to get a little bit of a discount with our nonprofit status. I don't know how much it is. There was another girl who has done a t-shirt fundraiser for another club, so we're just like, here, gladly you can take it. You seem to know what you're doing. So that's what we're working with. And yeah, we get department funding, so that's pretty nice. We have only, I think, like we just barely meet the number of members we need to be in good standing because we're a small department. So even just getting, I think we got 500 from the department, so having 750 a semester works out pretty nice if there's only 12 of us.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I mean, I also say words. I'll also say that for new chapters in particular, like it's such a great opportunity to establish that like admin, that AIA, and all these types of organizations, because you have the luxury to say, hey, we're brand new, come help us. Yeah. I know we're at time or a little past time, so feel free to leave if you need to. I know school's happening. But I dropped in the links, and this is going to be, obviously this is recorded, so I'll make a blog post about this and have all of this recorded. I just wanted to so ever briefly share screen super quickly, just to show off all of the resources that I linked up to. Don't mind my messy tool, everything. But if you go to resources, which is here, and you click it, then you'll come up to here, and then you get to go to finance, and then you click on finance, and then it leads you to a finance data log, which leads you to this, and this has event budget reports and timesheets, and then you download it. It's a spreadsheet. Let's see if it works. Cool. Right now we have FinCom going through it just to update it, but it has like, you know, who's involved, what is, you know, expenses, income, kind of all that great stuff. And then during the Grassroots last year, or this past year, we made a blog post on how to create and prep for Grassroots. So one of those things is fundraising. And we have a blog post, another blog post to go over micro to macro fundraising tips for all sizes that, has details in all of this. So again, this is all on the website. I dropped in the links, and then you already have everyone's contacts. So if you need more clarification or stuff, feel free to bother me, Lauren, Ethan, or Shannon.